Again, I apologize for the delay, but we are here to talk about how to organize a bike train, and we've got some wonderful people supporting us today. I already talked about the fact that I'm from the Safe Routes to School program and the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition. We've got a few people who are here to support us today in talking about how to organize a bike train. We have Sarah Hadler, who is our Safe Routes to School program manager. She works with schools all over Sonoma County, supporting their Safe Routes to School encouragement and education program. She's a League of American Bicyclists certified instructor, and she's an educator, and she started many bike trains across the county, helped schools start many bike trains. So she'll be speaking first, and then we'll hear from Annette Zucconi, who's the principal of Brooks Elementary School in Windsor, and she'll be talking about her experiences with bike trains. And then we'll hear from David Felix, who is a parent at McNear Elementary School in Petaluma, and hear about his experiences with bike trains. But we'll talk a little more about that in a sec. And then we're also joined by Emily Sharton, who is our Safe Routes to School advocacy coordinator at the Bike Coalition. So I'm going to pass it over to Sarah to get started. And Sarah, just let me know when I should advance slides.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here to talk about one of my favorite subjects in the world, bike trains. And go ahead and you can forward the slide, Christina. Thanks. And as Christina said, I've worked with many, many schools to start bike trains around the county. So I just kind of want to share my experiences from sort of an outsider point of view, but a support system for the school as well. So that's kind of the lens with which I'll be talking about helping schools start bike trains. And the next slide. So it can come up in various ways that a school is interested in starting a bike train. Maybe a parent comes to me, or a teacher, or even a principal, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It can come up at a PTA meeting. I can go and present at a PTA meeting, and parents will inevitably say, "Oh, I'm interested in that." So once I've got that interest from kind of a champion or a person who will be leading the bike train or kind of co-leading with me in the beginning, some of the tools that I use are our student address GIS maps, which you can see on the left. This is Evergreen Elementary in Rohnert Park. We make these maps for our schools every fall. And in just a minute, I'll kind of tell you how to access your school's map if you have one. But I look at these maps. And so let's take this example of Evergreen. I noticed that there's a collection of students kind of in the northwest quadrant. That's the G section. And so I think might be a good location to start a bike train from there. So I go to Google Maps and I look for a park or some kind of place that is a good gathering place. And from there, I'll kind of map a bike route to see what the distance is and to see if it's a feasible route. That's kind of a good starting place. You can also see in the bottom kind of southwest quadrant that there's another group of kids. So that's kind of the K section. Thanks, Christina, for pointing to that. And then again, I'll go to the Google map. I'll look for a park that's nearby, and perhaps that could be a good meeting place. And I'll talk about kind of some things we're looking for in the meeting places in a little bit. So that's kind of where we start from. And then next slide. For those of you who are here locally in Sonoma County, I wanted to tell you about the place where you can find your student address GIS map. They're all in a public place on our website. So if you go to sonomasaferoutes.org, you will go to events and plans, and a menu comes down, and you can click on school Safe Routes to School travel plans. From there, there's a list of schools, about 50, that we have maps created for, and we can easily create a map for your school, even if you're not in our program. You can always reach out to Christina or myself if you're interested for your school to create one of those maps. But it's a nice tool to get these bike trains going. And then next slide. So once you've kind of got the interest at the school and you've looked at, some potential meetup places, I like to really delve into the route planning. So again, we're looking for those accessible meetup spots. I like a place where people can park just in case they're driving in with their kids to drop them off on bike, but also that people can bike to. But parks make great meetup places. We're looking for some low traffics and low speed streets and neighborhood streets. This map is an example of J.X. Wilson Elementary School that I helped to start a bike train at. We began at Oak Park, and it's a very nice kind of meandering route through the neighborhoods. We want to stay off West Third. It's a high traffic, high speed street. We're looking for wide streets and multi-use paths. So once I've kind of got this outlined for a route, always pre-ride it, and know when you pre-ride your route, you're going to double or maybe even triple your time with the kids, because they're moving slower, you've got a bigger group. So that 7 minutes that Google Map is saying is probably going to end up being 20, with a group of kids. So just knowing that, maybe riding your route slowly, riding your route with the eye of a kid. So maybe getting down lower and seeing what you see from a kid's point of view, and noting some of those places where there might be, kind of issues. Is this a hard street to cross? Are there blind spots here? So just kind of, I really encourage you to check the route out before you go, and maybe even a couple times. And then next slide.
Yeah.
Then once you've kind of established your route, you've established your leader, I often offer support with the school, especially when they're getting it going. I'll be there with you. Once you've kind of got all that going, you really want to encourage the schools to promote the ride. We want people to show up. So I like to kind of make a basic flyer. You can see an example on the left. We always provide all of our materials in English and Spanish. So giving yourself some headway to get that flyer translated. Have the meetup space, have meetup place on there, have the time. So when you're timing your route, you want to kind of go backwards from the school time start and give yourself plenty of time. You can come up with those times with the school. Oftentimes we work together with those details. And then, sending that flyer out 2 weeks before, at least, it is nice. And maybe you send it out a couple times. So much information is digital these days that you can send out blasts and things as you're moving towards the event. We're coming up on Bike to School Day here in Sonoma County on Wednesday, May 8th. So we have material we can share with schools around that as well.
That's okay. Maybe next time you'll participate in the group.
And then next slide.
Okay, that's awesome. I can't wait to show mommy.
Could all the members of the audience please mute their microphones, because I'm hearing a little background. Thank you so much. Perfect. And so the day before the big day, the big bike train day, definitely to send out a reminder blast. And again, maybe you're doing this the whole week. I see it up on schools kind of boards, their public boards, bike train, that kind of information. Any way you can get the word out is wonderful. But a blast the day before is really that nice thing for parents that they remember that they're going to send their kids with a helmet, and a bike with working brakes is really important. We want the tires to be well inflated. If they have a lock, we want them to know how to use it. So just kind of a nice informative blast the day or two before. I also always love to suggest that kids wear something bright and colorful. I love this kid's helmet. He's wearing a bright blue jacket, so he just looks really good and bright and visible. And then next slide. And then the morning of, as you get there, I always like to arrive a little bit early. I bring a pump with me. I bring, an Allen wrench, an extra helmet or two. Inevitably, there's a kid who doesn't have a helmet or who has forgotten their helmet. So I always like to have an extra helmet or two. It's really sad to have to turn people away. And I've never had to do it so far, because if you have kind of the backup stuff, then you're good. I like to wear a brightly colored vest as kind of the leader or the caboose of the bike train. If you have an extra one to bring for the other leader or another parent who wants to join, great. As kids arrive, checking in with them and their parents, just squeezing those tires, checking the brakes really quick, making sure they're comfortable riding in the street and that they have a plan for getting home is a good thing. If you're not doing a bike train home, make sure they have a plan. And then next slide. And I always love to have kind of a gathering. So we group everybody up and do a little ready to ride safety talk. And this can be just a couple of minutes, you know, the ABC check. We want to check our air and our brakes and our chain. We want to check we look down and check to see if we have any loose shoelaces or pant legs. Let's tuck those away. We want to talk about being visible and communicating with each other. I like to make eye contact with each of the kids and check in with them. You know, go over the hand signals. We'll be practicing. I love to use these bike trains as an opportunity to educate. So let's go over the hand signals and let's practice them when we're riding. And we'll use our voice. Let's make a left turn and say that we're moving left. You know, leave a little space between each rider. I encourage parents and leaders to ride a little bit further out in the street to take on the brunt of traffic. And then kids to be aware of door zones where those parked car doors can open. And it's nice, you know, when you get to the school, when you've arrived at your destination, if kids need help locking their bikes, making sure those bikes are locked up properly, that the frame and the wheel are both locked to the bike rack. And then you're just off for a very fun, wonderful time with lots of smiles and kids arriving to school very happy. And then I think that's the last of my slides, but I'm going to introduce the next speaker. So I think we can move on unless anyone else has something they want to say. Yeah, I think we can move on. Oh, Christina, you're muted if you were saying something.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. Again, I mentioned this early in the presentation, but we do have one of our amazing bike train leaders here today, Principal Annette Zucconi from Brooks Elementary School in Windsor, leads a bike train on, I think, the first Wednesday of the month, pretty much every month this year, unless there's like a rain issue. So Annette's going to just speak about her experiences for a little bit, and she can also answer questions at the end.
All right. Thanks for having me, and thanks to those of you who are interested in learning about bike trains. I stumbled upon it because a former staff member at my school moved schools, and I was sitting down with Sarah and we were planning, and I just couldn't stand the thought that the bike train was going to go away. I'm more of a walker, saunter in the nature kind of a girl, never was a biker. And I told Sarah, I'll do it. And then I went out and researched e-bikes for myself because, you know, I knew I needed to start slow. But you can see there on the slide that our ride is 2.2 miles. And I just tell people if I can do it, anybody can do it because it's, you know, and it's just lovely to meet up early in the morning. Those are my beautiful students right there, beautiful and brilliant and healthy. I want to reiterate what Sarah said about the importance of promoting your bike train. In my experience, I can go anywhere from 6 bikers to 26 bikers, depending on how hard I promote my bike train. And the parents who are eager and interested are watching the notifications. I know this because I canceled the last bike train earlier this month because my weather app told me there would be rain right during my ride, and nobody showed up, even though there was no rain. So I know they're watching for it because they're excited, but they got that message. So I learned my lesson. I will no longer cancel. I'll let the rain cancel and deter people, but I'm going to show up and on the day and just hope Mother Nature agrees. I'm not sure what's on the next slide. I have a couple more points to share. Oh, there we are. So if you see there at the front of the bike train on the bottom right, that is the Chief of Police of Windsor. And then in the top left, that is our school resource officer. He's called the SRO. And they accompany us very often. And I love that they have, lights on there. So they help us communicate with traffic, pay attention, something's going on here. And I have third, fourth, and fifth graders at my school. So even an 8-year-old can ride with me 2.2 miles as long as their tires are pumped up and they've got a helmet on. They're invited to ride. Let's see. I think this might be, common for other bike train leaders. I actually am the caboose. I like to be at the back because I like to be able to see all the kids and know if somebody needs support. I'm a little less confident being at the front and having them all behind me. So I let the professionals help. I have somebody, a regular volunteer from Safe Routes to School who assists us and leads my train. But what I love is that I end up having something in common and something to connect with my kids about. I work hard to build relationship with all of my students, and it seems I have a kind of a special relationship with the kiddos that ride with me. We say things like, it's time to ride, let's take over the lane. And I hear those things come out when I'm on campus, Ms. Zacconi, take over the lane. And so I just, for me, I was never a biker, but now I bike once a month with my students. And it's just a delight, rain or shine. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer questions. All right. Well, thanks a lot for having me, and I wish you all the best of luck in starting your trains.
Thanks so much, Annette. And if you may think of a question toward the end, and we'll definitely have time for questions and discussion at that point. So, Emily, did you want to go ahead and introduce David, since I didn't give you a chance to speak in the beginning?
Sure. Hi, I'm Emily Sharton. I'm the advocacy coordinator for the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition. And very excited to introduce David Felix. He's a parent of kids at McNear Elementary School in Petaluma, an avid cyclist, a member of the advocacy group in town, Safe Streets Petaluma. And last spring, he took the lead on organizing a bike train for the May Bike to School Day, so a year ago. And he actually not only organized one, but organized 3 bike train routes that morning. So basically doubling the number of kids who rode to school that day. And also it was a rainy morning. So very, very successful organization. And he's going to share his experiences and lessons learned in putting that together.
Yeah, and I think David also organized the bike train last October for International Walk and Roll to School Day. So he's had 2 bike train event days under his belt. All right, go ahead and you take it from here.
Give it a third shot here coming up in a couple months. So thank you. Yeah, super happy to be here. Glad to see a bunch of people joined, and I'll just really echo everything that Sarah and Annette just talked about. I'll try to build upon that a little bit and talk about some of the, maybe a few different things that we did at McNear. But all the, safety and all the, lots of great information there. So thank you for covering that. I'll try not to repeat too much. You can keep going in the slides here. So I think, one of the main places that I wanted to start a year ago, first time doing this, was trying to figure out how many parents, and staff members we had to volunteer. And thinking that just kind of the geography of McNear Elementary and kind of where, again, starting with the map, kind of where the kids live, there's an opportunity to do multiple routes. And if, figure the key part there was having enough adults to lead and, follow the caboose for each of the routes. So really started and tried to start the organization pretty early. I think, from now thinking about the next bike train event, we've got a couple months. So I think it's actually not too early to think about some of those beginning steps. So starting to find who those champions might be, again, parents and, staff members. We've got some teachers that lead a couple of our routes, and then figuring out where they live. I'll get into the mapping part here in a second. Again, site principal, we have a fantastic principal at McNear who's very supportive of this and is, helps to kind of get the word out. And the day of event is, very colorful and exciting for the kids, and that's all her. PTA is a good source also of, making sure that folks are coordinated and can help get the messages out on like Parent Square and be able to communicate to a larger group of parents. And then again, picking out like the routes, which I'll talk about here in a second. You can go to the next slide, please. So thinking about like the timing. So yeah, from today we got a little bit under 2 months. So again, I just really started thinking about like who are the parents, who could I talk to? Do I know anybody that rides bikes? Maybe say something in a PTA meeting, ask the principal, just trying to figure out like what's kind of that universe of supporters that you might have at school. And then, starting to build that group into the part of your organization to get the first train set up. And hopefully, if you're able to get enough people, you can do multiple routes and include more kids. Again, very kind of geography dependent where the school is, kind of where the kids live. Thankfully, McNear's has a fairly concentrated student population pretty close in, but can come from kind of different directions. See if we can get 4 routes going this year. I think there's a possibility for that. So, yeah, so starting to send the emails again. I try to keep like a somewhat steady cadence every couple of weeks, let people know what's happening. We get more volunteers. Oh, we got a new route. I start a text chain with all the parents and adults, staff members who have signed up to kind of, again, help coordinate things. Some folks are very experienced with biking with kids, others are not. So making sure that everyone feels supported. We use the text chain a lot on the day of to make sure that, if anybody needs backup, we try to have 3 adults per route. So we have 1 extra person if someone needs to stay home, or we have a kind of an extra person to jump onto another route if needed. And yeah, really kind of building up to that week or 2 beforehand, and then day before. It's really kind of just almost kind of communicating in some ways, just to make sure that everyone is aware of where the routes are. There is a little bit of complexity, I think, with having multiple routes, so just making sure folks know where they are, when they leave, all of those things I'll talk about here on the next slide. I think we've got these, Christina, let me know if we don't, but I think we have these templates that just, rough idea of like, if you want help putting together like these first emails, don't have to like read through it here. I got 2 of them, you can kind of flip through them. But just to give some ideas of what a bike train is, things that you would want to include in an email, just to give some ideas of how you could, start the communication. And then, so that was the first email, and then the last email, and you can kind of fill in any details in between, but you'll see like there's more specificity to the routes and who the contact people are as the date approaches. I think the next slide has, sorry.
We can send out those templates when we send the recording for the meeting.
Awesome. Thank you. I think on the next slide, we got more on the routes. So this gives a little bit more information as far as like where the actual routes were. We decided to treat them like a train route and label them with colors and be very specific about the points, like the intersections on the map where folks should meet. And I used Google My Maps to create this. It's kind of a handy little subversion of Google Maps where you can create like the icons and draw the lines, and it makes it a little easier, and it has like this kind of whatever grayish color background. It's a little easier to read the street names on. So it's a pretty helpful tool to be able to create like a map like this in a pretty simple way. And then you can share it electronically, or you can take a screenshot and send just a picture of it. So this is what this map was attached to all the emails that went out as people signed up and raised their hand, and we could create more stops. We added those, to it as we went. I think a really important piece of this, like Sarah was saying, I think at the beginning, is the timing. So we try to make sure, again, practicing the route, riding with, I rode with my small kids, see how long the route took with kids, and trying to leave enough cushion in there. The times posted are departure times, so people know they need to be there at that time or before, so they don't miss the train. And making sure that you're planning to arrive at school about 10 minutes before the bell. Make sure kids aren't rushed. Our excellent principal is also a total stickler for getting your butt in the seat at the right time, so making sure kids aren't rushed. And making sure they have time to lock up their bike, they know how to use their lock. Sarah mentioned that. I think that's really important. I think that's it for this slide. And then one important lesson learned from the first time we did this was we spent a lot of time thinking about the morning route and organizing all the parents to make sure we had enough people. We didn't spend a lot of time thinking about the ride home. And we ended up with a couple miscommunications. We had a few kids who ride their bike to school every day and they just rode home and weren't quite sure where they were for a little while. So making sure you know which kids are going to be joining the ride home, make sure you know which parents are available. We've been doing this on Wednesday half days. So how many parents or adults are available at 1 in the afternoon to ride home. We did have one like mom rode in the morning, dad rode in the afternoon. So like it takes a little extra coordination. Just the main thing is just making sure that no one's getting left behind, stuck at school, or riding home by themselves if they're not comfortable riding home and not used to it. So that's an important element that we did miss the first time that we were better about the second time. It's an important part of the organization. Also, we tried to get a group photo and it was chaotic because like all the kids are going everywhere. So if you want to try to get a group photo of everybody, just think about when and where you want to do that, and communicate that well. Anyway, just some of the things that we learned along the way doing this. And keep going, yeah. So after the event, I've been really hoping to try to build this into more of a monthly thing. It's totally a function of like the adults that are available. I think that's really what it comes down to have like an organized event like this or a version of this without kids just kind of riding solo. And so I really encouraged the adults on those individual routes to coordinate amongst themselves. Like if this is something you'd like to do, if you have kids that are engaged, just, I don't need to facilitate it, like really trying to empower people to build upon what works well. And like build upon those individual routes, see if there's more kids. Again, we're gonna try to get a fourth route for this event coming up. Asking like on that text chain, like, hey, how did it go? Anybody upset about what happened? Everyone like feel good about that? They want to go again. So really just trying to, especially starting from scratch, it was important to get feedback. Had some, different experiences on the route. For the most part, people had a great time. We had a ton of kids. Got complaints like there's not enough spaces on the bike rack. So like feedback to, we need more bike racks. We need safer streets in town. So that's obviously an important part of it. That's a different conversation. So anyway, I think having feedback and learning from experience and trying to improve upon it and get more kids to ride to school is an important part of this, I think. So.
Absolutely. I think that's your last slide, David, unless you had something else to say. I just wanted to add, I just really appreciate parents like David, principals like Annette, who really are doing the work to get out there and reach out to other parents, because it's that personal connection, I think, that like makes all the difference. As schools, we can only, we can identify a route and make a flyer, but unless there's somebody at the school site that is really championing, I can't say that word, championing, and I can't say the word, championing, it doesn't happen. But there are a lot of parents who walk and bike and who would probably really enjoy this. And it's just a matter of like connecting with those other parents and finding them and talking to them and encouraging them and letting them know that this really can happen. Another thing I just want to suggest, if you do establish a bike train and, you are wanting to utilize that opportunity to identify what, routes might need to be improved, consider, inviting an elected official to bike with you, or, someone that's, in a leadership position at your town, because they should see what you're doing and they should see what the issues are and try to, advocate for more improvements. And that kind of brings me to Emily's little portion here. She is our advocacy director, and I just want her to talk a little bit about how you can get more involved in that aspect of bicycling.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So many of you, I think, already are members of the Bicycle Coalition, but if you're not, please consider joining us. We have a monthly newsletter. We operate several social media channels. We have a website with a blog, many events going on, many volunteer opportunities. So it is a great way to get involved. Obviously, you will learn about events like this. You will have a connection to the other programs that Safe Routes runs. Anyway, I think we are a great resource. So hopefully, you all will join, or at least, sort of pay attention to what we do, keep track of what we do. Those of you who might want to sort of take another step can get involved with local advocacy groups. And these are programs that we've been working on or working with, supporting at the Bike Coalition. There's several active groups in jurisdictions across the county. Bikeable Santa Rosa, Petaluma has a couple, Safe Streets Petaluma and Bike Petaluma. There's a new group in Healdsburg called Move Healdsburg that's starting to get going. So these are groups of local bicycle advocates and enthusiasts who organize community rides, who work on advocacy projects in their towns, try to get more bike lanes built, all those kinds of things. So there are a lot of great opportunities there. Sebastopol as well. They're not listed here, but they have a group, Bike Sebastopol, that's working on some projects as well. So those are a great resource. A handful of communities have bicycle and pedestrian advisory committees. So these are appointed by City Council. Again, not every jurisdiction in Sonoma County, but several do: Santa Rosa, Petaluma, Rohnert Park. Another great way to get involved in bike projects, bike infrastructure projects going on in town. Always a great idea to keep in touch with your city council and your elected officials. Let them know that you're interested in safer streets for all, facilities that can make it safer for riders of all ages and abilities. And then the Safe Routes to School program, Christina has started organizing task forces in a couple of towns, Santa Rosa and Petaluma, that are working specifically on identifying areas around schools that can be improved by doing walking audits with with the school community, with the parents and school officials. So those are another great way to get involved in bringing about some change. So we hope to see all of you somewhere in the county. There's lots of opportunities. And I think I will turn it back over to Christina.
Great. And if I know there's a couple Petalumans in here, and we do have our next Safe Routes to School task force meeting in Petaluma next Thursday, March 21st. And we'll be talking a little bit about Bike to School Day at that meeting. It might be an opportunity to connect in person with other parents if other parents show up, or other school officials or city officials. And we'll also be sharing the results of our latest walk audit, which will be actually, we're doing it tomorrow at Loma Vista Elementary School. We're basically auditing one school a month and then reporting on the results of that at that meeting. So just a heads up for your Petaluma people. All right, this is our last slide, and then we'll open it up for questions. I'll leave this up for a little bit. If you want to contact any one of us, you are welcome to email me. You're welcome to text or call me, Emily, Sarah. David's provided his phone number. Annette, you can email. I don't think it'd be easy to reach Annette during the school day as a principal, but so I did not put her phone number on there.